We're going to share some of the pictures that Jeff and I took in our Mediterranean cruise in September of 1988. We took off from Detroit, flew to Boston, on to Frankfurt, Germany, and from Frankfurt to Genoa, Italy, located right up here. It was a long flight. As you know, a European flight, you're up all night. And here's a shot of Jeff kind of sacked out at the Frankfurt airport in our 3-hour layover. So when we got on the ship, which is right here, we were a couple tired cowboys. Took the video camera along and captured some pictures which I'll be sharing with you. We're going to go now to our cabin. But here we are. Good morning, world. As long as our batteries hold out, we're going to see what we can get with this old video.
Why did you bring it if it's not going to work?
Well, I hope it's going to. First, we're going to try and get a picture of our room here. It's about the size of our bathroom at home, right, Jeff? A little bit bigger. It features music with, who's this guy? Terrence Trent. Terrence Trent.
Darby Fellas.
And I got my little bed over here, and I got this little thing here I hit my head on when I get up. And then as you come around here, we got a little step in. John? Actually, everything's very clean and nice. Air conditioning is super. Shower's over here. Oh, here I am. Good morning. And coming around, when you first walk in, there's our little door, and here's our little closet. All our stuff. We got all these little neat lights, right? Throw one of those lights on, Jeff. Show how those. How you can control all the lights from the bed, and turn the overhead one off. Can you do that?
Oh, and that one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Anyhow, this is our little room where we just slept nonstop
Are you still taking it?
for 24 hours. Well, I don't really know if it was 24 hours. It might have been 16. But here's Jeff eating breakfast. I think these. We're sitting in the harbor here. I truly think these are a couple we took in Genoa, really before we went to sleep. I think that's Genoa in the background there. Me in that shot. And I think we're pulling out here. And then we slept 16 or 18 hours or so. And that evening, the ship cruised on some 300, 400 miles down to Naples, where we visited Pompeii. A couple pictures from the postcards of Pompeii. That was at Roman city. Here's Jeff on the street here. We stopped at a jewelry store on the way over there with the bus. There's an ugly American. And some pictures from the postcards of Pompeii. Anyhow, there's the volcano there that erupted, and here's one of my pictures now on our pictures. Jeff in front of me. There's a volcano that buried the city of Pompeii, and they dug it up and restored some of it. It's quite an interesting place. Very, very large. Here's they have some of the people that were their petrified remains when they were buried in the volcanic ash. As you'll see, the weather was just a gorgeous, beautiful day here, as was every day in the Mediterranean, September. See the mountains out there and the clouds, and typical 85-degree day. More of the areas of Pompeii here. You could see the tracks in the street where the chariots had run. Some shots inside of one of the restored buildings there. And then it was back to the ship in the late afternoon. That got to be a real pleasure. So that evening, the ship pulled out of Naples and went to Sicily, where there's an interesting little city, Catania, located there. So the next day, we went on the trip up to the city that's located on a mountain there. There's also an active volcano which we drove by. You know, it wasn't, there was steam coming out of the top, but pretty interesting. These are my pictures, our pictures, as we drove up to this city fortress that was on the top of one of the hills there. Of course, Jeff was not supposed to drink any water in Europe, and as you can see, that was a short trip. Here we are arriving back at the ship again. A shot of the swimming pool, and go to another video. Get something to eat. Oh, there must be. Oh yeah, getting ready to cast away.
On the other cruise, we used to have the band player, Sept again. We used to have the band player. Remember, it was a new boat, we had the full band. So it was amazing. They used to play, and they used to stand on the side and sing to you.
Remember I was telling you that, Jeff, on the cruise I was on? Band played. Probably push this over so we don't hit the shore, right? What's going on? What you doing? Huh? Signing up for? Oh.
Easy.
How's it going?
Here's a postcard that shows a little picture of that volcano as we left the island. By then we got recovered a little bit, looking, I think, a little bit more awake. At least Jeff is. That's where you sat and watched the entertainment. This was the captain's ball. Here we're meeting the captain, and this was about the only time that Jeff got dressed up in a matching outfit and wore long pants instead of shorts. There was an English couple at our table in the dining room, and there's some video of that later. Some shots we snapped in the cabin the night before we went to Egypt. We're just trying to use up the film here. Bottle of water. They always had some fresh fruit in a little basket. Jeff got a lot of sun by then. And here we're anticipating Egypt in the morning. Because we'd been sailing for a day and a half. We had a day at sea here. And we came across the Mediterranean and arrived at the port of Alexandria in Egypt. Then we were going to get on a tour bus, go across the desert here about 125 miles to Cairo and the pyramids down here. And then in the evening, come back to the Port Said. So here we're going to some of the pictures of Alexandria. Looks like Jeff's not quite awake yet. We have breakfast again in the port. Sun's just coming up. It's early in the morning in the port of Alexandria. Now we're on the tour bus heading in towards Cairo. A hot desert out there. Here's our, just see the pyramids there as we approach the pyramids for the first time on the bus. We got the opportunity to go to the pyramids twice that day. This is a site about a mile away, so that you can get the view of all the pyramids together. Again, the sun is coming up, and it's going to be another scorching day here. And we got our first introduction to the Egyptian. Here comes the guy with the camel, you know. And naturally, the only place you're going to end up is on top of the camel. I think they supply the headgear. A great shot of Jeff. Another great shot. Again, it was still fairly cool in the morning here. Now we're back in the bus. We're driving by the Sphinx, which is not far from the pyramids. And we went on to Cairo. This is lunch at the Nile Hilton Hotel, which is located right on the Nile, which is in kind of downtown Cairo. Then after lunch, we went to the Egyptian Museum. Tried to get a picture here of Jeff next to this little Sphinx. Jeff wasn't real interested in a picture right there. Here's some pictures from the inside. You really weren't allowed to bring a camera, but the ship photographer had some pictures there. You see Jeff and I just going away from King Tut, I guess it is. And then leaving the museum here. And there's the Nile. There's downtown Cairo, some of the hotels, and there's the Nile. Again, right back where we ate, actually. There's another look at Cairo, the more typical Cairo. And here's a postcard shot, and we're back at the pyramids in the late afternoon now. Here's, I think, the greatest shot right here. The world traveler himself. And a slightly tireder world traveler. Pyramids themselves are really very rough when you get close to them. There's Jeff climbing up on one. And lo and behold, another camel. My picture of the Sphinx, the sun was in really the wrong angle to get a very good picture of it. You can see that it's becoming almost night as we get on the boat now. Here we stopped by was it papyrus, I guess, a paper place, and got a souvenir like this thing here. Jeff almost left me here. And so as the sun is setting in Cairo here, we got to one of these mosques in the evening, and then headed back for a memorable reunion with the ship back up here at Port Said after a really long day of about 12 or 14 hours. During the night, the ship sailed to Israel. This is the port of Israel where you're supposedly not supposed to take any pictures. And now we're embarking on another tour, a day tour of Israel. I had washed that shirt myself, incidentally. We arrived at the port of Ashdod, and we're going then by bus across and over to Jerusalem, and then down to Bethlehem and back to Jerusalem. It's itinerary. They had some tanks and so on the side of the road here from the Six-Day War, I guess, of 1967 or 68. There's a shot of Jerusalem now. I think Jeff must have smelled a camel here. Oh, yeah. And just about every place you go, they're waiting for you with camels to take your picture on the camel. Here's Jeff picking some olives off an olive tree. I wanted something that said Bethlehem on it. I was looking for the Bethlehem Pizzeria, but we got some kind of store there. And now we're visiting the holy places, the site where the Nativity in Christ was born. Jeff's real interested, you could see here. And now we're going back to Jerusalem, and there's the wall. Jerusalem, the old city, is walled, and they're very careful about who they let in there. And we're inside now visiting the Wailing Wall. The significance of a lot of these holy places is somewhat lost on Jeff and me. There's Jeff leaning against the holy wall, it looks like, and or the Wailing Wall. Here we're leaving the wall there and continuing on through the inside of the old city of Jerusalem here. A lot of shops were closed that day. We go into the Holy Sepulchre Church, which is where they have I guess about the second half of the Stations of the Cross are located there. Again, Jeff's real interested. This is the supposed tomb where Christ was buried. There's the gal on the left there was our Israel tour guide. Here we're leaving Jerusalem, and it's dark again by the time we get back to the ship. So we get a good night's rest as the ship makes its way across the Mediterranean to Cyprus. And now a little video of life on an Italian cruise ship in the daytime.
Rimane sempre in ultima posizione. Era stanca della corsa che aveva fatto prima, aveva appena vinto la corsa, però si muove di nuovo numero 1, 4 numero 6, è arrivato a 3/4 di corsa. Vediamo adesso la reazione delle altre. La numero 2 scatta adesso in questo momento. Numero 2, 3 caselle, supera, credo, anzi no, sì, supera la numero 4 e si porta in seconda posizione. Prima posizione per la numero 6. Numero 6 ancora una volta, attenzione, pericolosissimo numero 6. 3 caselle numero 6. Ultima posizione per il numero 3, numero 5, scatta il numero 5, si trova qua in ultima posizione e si muove di 6 caselle. Attenzione, per il numero 5 si fa anche pericolosa e si porta in quarta posizione.
So just in case this doesn't get here, we got all this wonderful equipment out here to send that off, right? Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening, Tom.
Got some sun today? Yes. Yes,
Don't break it tonight. Come on, come on. See, as soon as I get the camera on, look what happened. Is it all right?
Right?
Perché sennò tu siete stanchi, no? Così anche di meno per essere.
The next evening, or night, we cruised from Cyprus over and into the area of the Greek islands, stopping at the Greek island of Rhodes. Another postcard view of another incredibly beautiful place. We visited this city, old ancient city at the top. Here we're in the port. That ship is the Atlas, another cruise ship that we almost went on before we went on this Costa cruise. Here we are in the tour bus again, motoring our way up to the little white village there where we looked at donkeys, but the rest of the people were walking up to the top city, so we elected to walk up with them. You can see again, these are my pictures here. It's a gorgeous morning. Weather was just perfect, so we're up at the top here looking down on that little white building, Greek city. This was one of my favorite shots I took. It's hard to take bad shots because it was just so gorgeous there. Looking down on that little harbor. As our tour guide. They always had really good English-speaking tour guides. Favorite picture here, Jeff and me. And notice that part of that Acropolis, a few columns sticking up there. This one here, Jeff took a pretty good, decent picture of me holding my breath here, holding the columns up. And now we're starting to make our way back down from the city. We stopped on a Grecian bowling alley, ancient bowling alley here. And they got a lot of pieces to pick up and put back together here. We decided to take the donkey down the hill. And I see Jeff on the donkey. Actually, it's easier to walk than it is to trust these donkeys. But these Greek cities, here's a shot just of, and this is my shot. Looks like a postcard, I know, but there's Jeff. They do them all in the white with the blue trim. There's a postcard picture of where we just came down from. Lindos on the island of Rhodes. And here's a couple other postcard shots. Of course, they look a little better in postcards, but same basic area that we visited. You really do see why you hear so much talk about the Greek islands. Postcards of the way this place looks in the evening towards sunset with all the cruise ships waiting out there. Actually, this is here we stopped by a pottery store here, and again we're making the trek back to the ship. And again, it's great to always have that ship out there with a nice air-conditioned cabin and good food to get back to. Here I'm bordering the ship. That night we cruised about another 300 miles across through the Greek islands to a little island. I don't know why always in these shots that Jeff looks a little bit more sober than me. He drank more than I did. I guess he can hold it better. On this island, we came down and actually got on the lifeboats, the little tenders, and it's really neat. As the boat sits out in the harbor and the lifeboat goes out, and it goes actually almost under the bow of that giant ship. You get a great view. Again, you can get the feeling here. It's early morning once again, and once again, it's a just incredibly beautiful morning. It's going to be about 85 degrees. And, so the little tender's making its way towards the shore of this small island. There's as we leave the ship behind, and we got on this island, and we rented a little motor bike, or a couple of them. And there's where that was our first big mistake. We actually tipped the thing over with Jeff on the back and scraped up our legs a little bit. But once we got the hang of it, we had a great fun driving around the island. Here we got up high on the island looking out, and that is our ship sitting in the harbor there. And that was a great trip, walking through the little town here, picking up some souvenirs. And again, the white walls with the blue trim. That was our last trip. From here on, we sailed back across the boot of Italy here and past this volcanic, very small island here, and just had another day to enjoy the sea. Another morning with the sun coming up. And this morning we had about 2 hours of a little rain. Where Jeff took the time to work out here in the gym, and you see Jeff working away, and you see me working out in the next shot here. Just really going for it, Olympic style. And there was, of course, skeet shooting on the boat, and there you saw the weather already cruised up. This was our last night at sea, and they put on a big show with the desserts, and this is sitting at our table, and this is where everybody's very enthusiastic, anticipating the tips that you're going to give them. There's the English couple again, Ray and Mary, with Jeff and I at the table, and there's our waiter with Mary, and there's our little wine girl. And we woke up to our last morning. There's a typical breakfast that I had, coming into the harbor of Genoa and docking there. The little tugboats pushing us in. There's the last shot on the ship with just getting ready to depart. Then we had a tour through Genoa itself. This is the gates to the old city, and this is Christopher Columbus's courtyard next to his house. Here's looking over on Genoa from a high point in the city. We had a tour bus, and there were only 6 of us Americans all together. Here I'm in some bank, some old ancient rich house here where they have some statues in the backyard, and then they took us to this great little restaurant where we had lunch. And here's just the 6 Americans sitting there. The other ones are all from Florida, Fort Lauderdale, and so on. And they fed us wine, and you'll see in the rest of these pictures here, we are smiling as we continue the trip. You'll see smiles on everybody's faces because they just kept feeding us bottles of wine at the lunch. But it was a great afternoon, and we're on the little tour bus here to visit one of the lifestyles of the rich and famous place called Portofino in Genoa. There's the postcard picture of it. And here's some of our pictures shopping around in the shopping area. And it was just a very small seaport here. There's a shot I kind of liked with the reflections of the buildings in it. And this is our last afternoon in Italy. There's looks like a boat owned by Donald Trump or something. It had a couple ski boats on top of it and 4 jet skis. Jeff wanted a picture of this cat, so we took a picture of the cat. And this really winded up our trip. We flew back to Frankfurt, spent one night there. This is in our hotel at Frankfurt. In the next morning, found us at the airport, getting ready to board our 747 for our return to the United States. Wind up the tape then with the last shot and some truly incredible memories of a trip that probably won't fade from our memories for an awful long time.